At my end, I can fully see. My last case opened in me a new fear, a real fear, a fear of myself, of what I am, and of what I've always been.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you the latest in cosmic horror.
Oh my god. Oh, fuck. No!
I now walk in the shadows between worlds, and it is there I have finally glimpsed upon what lives in the dark corners of the earth.
Depersonalization launched for English-speaking audiences in 2024, but its original release date stretches back to late 2022 in China. It's billed as a game that captures the essence of the Cthulhu mythos. So I've got a couple characters here. This is Simon. He's pretty normal. Oh, there's Bird. Weird name, but sure. And this is Yummy. Say that shit again, Now! It may not be pretty, but it is confusing, and we love a good mystery. I love asking why, openly, verbally, several times a session even. But to be fair, it's cosmic horror. That's what we're paying for. Actually, what are we paying for? This is a sample of the Steam trailer. It's highly stylized, aesthetically interesting, evocative, mysterious. Look. And to be clear, none of these assets appear in-game. They were purely created for the sake of the trailer, to sell an update, and while some of those characters are represented in-game, this never comes back. Instead we get... I'd go as far as calling it blatant misrepresentation. Little Goody Two-Shoes had a cool trailer too, except those assets actually appeared in-game. So who did this, and why? MeowNature is a Chinese indie studio, though their only currently credited game is Depersonalization. And is anyone available to send them food? I think they might be dying for real. It's a small group with minimal resources. It's hard to be cruel to this kind of team, except when they ask for it. I actually think this counts as criminal harassment. Of course, I fully intend to press charges and pursue financial compensation. Thankfully, my boy Phoenix Wright is in the game. And by Phoenix Wright, I mean Saul Goodman.
Wait, is this... Ever wondered why God created snakes before lawyers? Because he needed practice.
Guys, I'm trapped in meme hell. You took the two meme lawyers and referenced them at the same time. What if Dr. House had a practice with Dr. Faust? Think of all the wacky antics they'd get up to.
Thought about ending it.
Maybe I'm getting salty over nothing. Or maybe this is the exactly correct amount of salt. Depersonalization might look a bit stiff, a little quaint, but hold on to your hats now. It's also the closest video game relative to Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu tabletop RPG. There is no punchline, and it might be surprising info given the everything, but at the very least, it plays well. Game fun! The big issue with Cthulhu games, all of them really, is that none of them go all the way. Never really quite sell the premise. And that's no slight. Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth is plenty Lovecraftian. It's even light on violence for a big chunk of the run and does maybe the best job of any other game.
I'm sorry.
But you also kill more than one deity you really have no business killing. In the RPG, you'd just be dead. 2018's Call of Cthulhu is beautiful and captures the vibe in high definition, but struggles as a game. Not action-y enough for action, not RPG enough for tabletop. It's stuck pleasing no one except fans of the aesthetic. The Sinking City is gorgeous and action-y and interesting, but suffers in so many small ways and relies so much on combat. The guys in the books aren't gunning down hordes of flesh beasts, dude. They're going insane. Still, these games are fun and unique, and this one is too. Depersonalization is actively unconcerned with appealing to the sensibilities of Lovecraft fans, casually uses the mythos as inspiration only, and interprets core features with reckless abandon, but sticks strictly within TTRPG territory. Regardless of everything, it knows what it wants to be, as a video game, and has fun doing it. So I think it's worth looking at. I'm in my 30s, man. The playgroup doesn't get together for D&D anymore. We're not meeting up weekly and role-playing in a basement. We're paying bills and worrying about retirement. Nothing this game could throw at me could scare me more than real life. Okay, that's pretty close. The thing plays well. It's weird to think, but this will be some folks' introduction to tabletop systems, even if it's not a perfect replacement. It's naturally engaging to inhabit a character with stats and try your luck at all kinds of skill checks, interface with the world. And since there aren't any competing players to suck up the DM's time, no role players or yap lords, it's just you and the slot machine. Yes, I will roll to pickpocket. In an era of sports betting and gacha games, why not pick up a TTRPG? Go gambling with none of the life-altering consequences.
How is that possible? No, I can't lose. It's impossible.
Jeez, man, lighten up a bit. I once saw a guy sitting outside a casino in Japan looking like he'd lost everything. Like he'd have to go home and tell his wife. For 25 Canadian dollars on Steam, you play as this guy, Anon, but functionally you're piloting a bunch of regular people, investigators you control for the bulk of the game. Anon, also called Starkey, is a shard of Yog-Sothoth who can independently traverse time and space to correct flaws in chaotic timelines, hoping to put the universe in order again. All at the behest of his creator, who's entered into an agreement with Forgamon, another side of Yog-Sothoth in this universe and effectively the god of time, to not interfere with these broken timelines directly. What's that? Oh, misleading people is bad? You're absolutely right. Here. Yes, Yog-Sothoth-chan and a Forgamon-kun, as best as I can tell from the information online. They're here to goggle bug-eyed at the player like the chittering, insectile aberrations they are. I'm getting word that they're just drawn that way. As I'm trying to throw you a bone here and you just aren't biting. I mean, it could be worse. It could be the next Kafulu Fatagnya. But it isn't. Regardless, you exist to play the game's many adventures multiple times to find the good endings. May all stories find their best endings.
God, I wish that were me.
So unlike more traditional Lovecraftian pieces, the end goal is not smearing shit on the walls of your padded cell, but instead saving the universe. It's deliberately hopeful. Like imagine a Cthulhu game where having a sip of cola can restore sanity. Imagine if the dude from Dark Corners just had a chalky milk, but hopeful or not, there's still a price to pay. Depersonalization is a dissociative phenomenon characterized by a subjective feeling of detachment from oneself. You're introduced to basic gameplay in a tutorial module. It details Anon's backstory and sets up the conflict between Yog-Sothoth and a Forgamon. The gist is, Anon was a kid born into a family with an occult history and ultimately needs to sever his ties to the material realm, quite literally erase himself from ever existing, to give his family a peaceful future and take up the mantle of Starkey, the only being able to influence various broken timelines to preserve the universe. You don't think making that guy stab himself was bad for the timeline, do you? You learn a lot playing this tutorial stage, and it does a good job of making the other modules look cooler than they are. Depersonalization isn't primarily focused on horror. They say as much on their Steam page. Mystery and wonder are equally as important to the storytellers as fear. But when you sign up for Cthulhu, you kinda want fear. Just a pinch. Just a clench of the sphincter. Look, I'm well and truly bothered by enough of the very real existential issues facing the world today. Like, at least give me the option to pretend there's weird fish people. And the tutorial does capture the Lovecraft vibe. I was confronted by this lurching, bandaged monster as a defenseless child and actually felt myself having fun. I lit a carpet on fire at one point to keep enemies at bay. This is almost as good as it gets for the rest of the game, outside of a few specific moments in later modules. Developer notes make it clear that depersonalization is intended to be a game where player choices influence the world, and they do, but it's not nearly as interactive or meaningfully interactive as the whole carpet ignition situation suggests. Now, you gotta understand that since most players will play alone, depersonalization is softer than some tabletop-style games. Gambling, or at least taking risks, is half the joy. One time I lost a finger touching an artifact suspended in a beam of light. It's great. Handling problems however you can and having things fall apart. Bro, I don't care about my character. That's the DM's problem now. In tabletop, you're not necessarily meant to be the main character, but a person in the world. Even if a lot of heroic fantasy is about being the main character. So depersonalization has a luck system. You start with 100 luck points and spend them during a module to reroll results or boost your chances of succeeding in action. It's an all-purpose get-out-of-jail-free card for failure, or at least a chance to reroll. And why I say you can brute force many of the modules. If you think this looks too hard, it isn't. They probably figured newcomers, or like young people, would find failure and death and consequences frustrating, quit outright. Because yeah, failing a sanity check and losing then and there probably wouldn't suit the kind of game they're making in the first place. It just makes for a softball experience, and sometimes CBT is more satisfying. Like, what are the stakes exactly if I can roll any bad result away? They don't let you roll charisma to get out of paying your taxes, okay? They send you to prison. You also learn about endings early on. You'll fall into a game over sooner than you'd like if you make bad choices.
Bro, I didn't even do anything.
Still, you're meant to go back and fix your mistakes. Actually, you're made to push forward, reloading as required to hit the one game-progressing ending to hammer the point home. Repetition is important. So get on the assembly line, peon. You'll need to make certain choices to unlock later ones. A lot of modules are mercifully short, allowing you to reload an old save and reach a critical branch within minutes. You're meant to dig, experiment, and push, and this is important because Call of Cthulhu, the game, the RPG, is best played cautiously, which can make it a slog, inflicting its own kind of paralysis on worried players. And here, thanks to a narrative conceit, there's no real fear of game-ending consequences. I don't think that play is weightless, though. You can easily incur wounds and simply not find the means to cure yourself later, sometimes rendering important fights unwinnable if you play carelessly. Your character can change in permanent ways that do impact play. Oh. I think I fucked up. You're rewarded for poking around, but also incentivized to be cautious. More paths open the further you push, even if it costs you. This dynamic between the narrative and the mechanics lets the player live up to the exploratory, deep-digging investigator's role, but only if they really want the truth. It's impressive. But before long, you're being unmade and remade by Yog-Sothoth and pressed into eternal servitude as her timeline untangler, so this is your life now. Nothing but Chinese books on the shelves. I can't read any of those. And the only open gaming device is an arcade cab. It's probably loaded with Tower of Draga or some shit. There's a Forgamon hogging the only computer on his humiliating sponsored influencer setup. 6 screens, huh? Let's see. Twitter, YouTube, Goon site of choice, TikTok, Twitch, and Minecraft. What do I win? Some people might object to a Forgamon, basically the god of time, being a gamer. But for most of the people who watch my show, gaming is the god of their time, so incorrect doesn't always mean wrong. Unfortunately, Yog-Sothoth isn't the best roommate herself. Outside of her cutscene dialogue, she's actually an AI chatbot, probably fueled by trees, so that's fun. One of the only apparent uses of AI in the game. They promise! And while it's kind of fitting that an entity so utterly beyond human comprehension would write this way, it's mostly a load of overwrought, namby-pamby tripe and she should work on her prose. I burned a tree for this? Well, I better make my custom Call of Cthulhu character. Maybe I'll do like an alcoholic or something. Those are always fun. Oh, they're making me the alcoholic. Can you imagine Chibi-chan over here gazing upon the secrets of the universe and having a little mentee bee about it? Do you even have skills? Why do you have skills? Apart from the tutorial, you'll always be playing as a created character, which is pretty jarring to experience after an hour or two of the main character. Are these created characters disposable? Should I put effort into crafting them just right? But realistically, any set of attributes you pick will have some kind of relevant utility, and in case your character happens to suck, you can always make another and try again. I never thought twice about character creation, because the game goes out of its way to give you enough options, to lazily roll on through any of the modules at least once, such as gun. You bring a second or third character into a few of the modules, so even if my investigator is a little weak, my boy Jorpy will lay him out in 5 seconds flat. The modules are built for multiple runs, but the trick is, no character can live through the same timeline twice, so no character can run the same module twice. So never fear, you'll be picking from this extended catalog of winners before long. Well, where to begin? What do you think, Yog-Sothoth? Just kill me already. The game is divided into modules, a term you'd find in an old-school tabletop RPG, more or less meaning contained adventure. You can play through the modules in any order, you can quit at any time and try another, and you can even walk out of some of these for an early ending. Not a good one, but hey, sometimes you see something you don't like, throw up your hands and say, I'm out! I'm out! We've got to talk about the visuals. Depersonalization's gone through a few graphical overhauls featuring contributions from different artists at different times, and given that it's a small indie studio, we're left with an inconsistent package. You'll play through one module thinking things look pretty good and waltz into another like, yikes. Put that shit back in the bag! Low-fidelity graphics coupled with simplistic coloring leads to more than a few rough-looking screens, but atmospheric lighting and weather effects help liven up a flat world. But it's not just the environments, it's the people. I don't know how else to say it. Some of these characters look like they came out of Stardew Valley, some from Black Lagoon, some from Genshin Impact. It's thoroughly inconsistent. I mentioned naming briefly, but a lot of them struggle to sell the world. You know, there's no real sense of verisimilitude. I don't buy these people. And that is not where you want to be making something like a TTRPG. Winder, Horn, Lux, these are not names in any time period. Of course, this wasn't made for English speakers in the first place, it's just informed by Western lit, and the question is more, what does this team add or bring to this settled fictional firmament? But then you get stuff like Oh Lucky here. I get that it's a cutesy mythos creature or something, but that's an Irish-style name, and man, what's his last name, huh? Charms? Oh Lucky Charms? What's next? Okar? You sicken me. I'll keep story analysis lean because there's not much of a meta plot. Like, yes, you'll get a brief exchange between Yogg and Gamer between chapters, but nothing that coalesces into a final boss or end goal. Player ambitions, secrets, and true endings are confined to the modules. It feels like a game that's building to something that never fully manifests, and since it's about Lovecraft's work, fair enough. It's obvious from developer notes that the game is likely never going to reach a truly finished state, and so we're left with a bundle of ideas and fun diversions, but very little direction. The game only launched with a handful of modules, and more were tacked on later. These aren't critical for understanding a deeper plot. But that doesn't mean engagement is pointless. Your characters can gain skills, unlock mythos artifacts that carry between missions, and progress in tangible ways. Yeah, this game's cool and all, but I wish there was a way to find the geeks and gamers in the crowd. The most surprising thing about depersonalization is that it's fun and playable. I know I'm giving it a hard time, but to be fair, they earned it.
You see in it a stick, but I see a pickaxe. Oh good, Minecraft references.
I played a lot of very old, very weird games, so I'm ready for anything, but in spite of the rough dialogue and the inconsistent visuals, the act of moving from room to room, investigating along the way, stealing people's shit, fighting the occasional monster, and connecting with NPCs makes the game a convincing take on a solo play version of the Call of Cthulhu RPG. Even if the aesthetics are messy, the bones are solid because all that stuff's systemic. Anyone could feasibly enjoy this. It's not overly challenging, and the different modules seem deliberately designed to allow any kind of player to pass through them, like I mentioned. Sure, if you stumble onto an old god unprepared, you're gonna get your dipe wiped, but otherwise it's all doable. If you need a strong fighter and didn't bring one, you can usually recruit another character in the module or bring a backup. There's a degree of looseness implicit in TTRPG design that allows players to tackle situations in multiple ways. You could stand and fight, or avoid it by hiding in the nearby bushes. Like, those are some big rats, dude. I ain't playing like that. Plenty of enemies are fully avoidable as long as they aren't part of a scripted sequence. And don't assume all these NPCs are useless tits like I did. Sure, Walker here is totally incompetent with the weapon he starts with. A gun. But if you equip a bow, for some reason, he'll thunk shaft after shaft into whatever demented nightmare beast you encounter. With a full quiver, he's stronger than just about anyone else you can bring for free. This is to say, playing the RPG matters. It might be a little loose, but some characters and some skills absolutely crush in context. Like, you walk into the church at the start of this module and can pick them up instantly. There's no apparent carry limit as far as I can tell, so you can rifle through everyone's stuff and load up. It's something you're incentivized to do because plot important items are everywhere and on anyone, so it's pretty common to get handsy. And it encourages players to use the game's crafting system. You can make some crazy powerful weapons and consumables with the right parts, and blow through plenty of encounters with a little knowledge. Despite the flat presentation, there's depth in the systems. Which is kind of funny because combat is the part of the game where you attack and ignore all this other shit. Status effects, numbers, huh? Huh? Most battles don't ask much of the player. Your damage is a lot higher than you think as long as you find the means to hit the hardest. My first character wasn't tuned for combat, but basically manhandled every scenario alone with a couple of upgrades and plain weapon attacks. Sometimes I attacked completely unarmed and got a flurry of hits that obliterated anything I came across. Barely paid attention, just slapped the best gear on and went gambling. Yeah, a handful of battles asked for a little bit more, namely against old gods and bosses, but I never really used a strategy, and chose to rely on brute force for most of the game. On my string bean shut-in homebody neat character. You're pretty strong, Investigator-kun. You're not so bad yourself, incomprehensible eldritch entity Chan. And there's a lot of options. You can run, you can hide, you can aim, dodge, you can throw held items mid-battle, you can do so many things. You almost never have to. I don't know why you would bother, if I'm being honest. It's one of those systems that wants players to have fun with the thing and only puts the heel to your neck when gods attack. It's partly designed this way because the studio is obviously strapped, so tight combat probably isn't their highest priority, especially when running and de-escalating are just as viable in plenty of cases. But combat is so inherently loose because of the luck system, which can enhance anything you do. Your chance to miss just turned into guaranteed lethal damage, and it only cost you a pinch of luck. It's a kind game, very easy to stroll through unless you're hunting for specific endings and fighting the hardest battles, and I say this as someone who hardly engaged with magic at all. You can make an occultist character, you can cast spells. I have no idea why you would in most situations because lethal weapons are simply more effective than most of the magic in-game unless your character is deeply invested and buffed with special items and equipment. Part of this is systemic imbalance. Melee has no innate consequences except that some weapons will break. Ranged attacks have no consequences except that ammo might be scarce, and you might lack the scrap to craft more. Magic, on the other hand, will drive you insane. Literally. You have a finite amount of sanity, which is constantly lowered by running into spooky stuff, and abusing magic freely can hamper your character permanently. Yeah, you can pet a cat or drink a sody pop to bring it up a bit, which, true TBH, but it's a little more hands-on than the hands-on approach. All that aside, magic users tend to be slow. They're not very physically fit, because they work out at the library, so they get trampled in regular battles and one-shot in boss fights before they can act sometimes. You know, at least my stealth-inclined investigator could reliably hit people and dodge. Apparently you can access spells out of combat, presumably to influence NPCs, but I never had to. It feels a little undercooked. I think that's where my disappointment comes from. With better support and better resources, this game could sing. But instead, it's playing hard tracks through a shitbox tape deck and occasionally blasting penis music. Most modules are lighter on combat than, say, a typical turn-based RPG. And that's how it should be. Depersonalization is loosely based on Chaosium's tabletop Call of Cthulhu game, so combat needs to have weight and stakes, but in that system, fighting can also be highly lethal.
Is that good?
Just enormously dead. While life totals are low and damage is high, Depersonalization's combat is significantly easier and more survivable than Call of Cthulhu. It had to be. It's a game about slaying increasingly powerful beings, brushing up against actual mythos deities to alter these chaotic timelines and bring order to the universe. You must be able to wrestle time into place. So, yes, you can cap a god in the head with a gun. This isn't actually a narrative failure. Starkey, the player character, may be controlling completely regular people who stand no chance against these creatures alone, but his innate connection to Yog-Sothoth, his superhuman capabilities, presumably empower the people he controls. So for any old-school Call of Cthulhu players sputtering in contempt of the game's aesthetic and conceit, it's important to curb the inner grognard and try to see the good the game does. With Starkey more or less keeping these vessels alive, they're able to push on far longer than the typical Call of Cthulhu protagonist, giving them time to grow and improve. Character progression isn't handled like D&D. You don't level up, and so combat happens for necessity's sake. Instead, your character matures, gets a couple of upgrades and the ability to carry a chosen piece of equipment into new modules, where normally they'd start slate fresh. There's no carrying things between adventures otherwise. Thanks to Yog-Sothoth, you can load in with special mythos items, things you have to find in the modules themselves, which range from powerful weapons to game-altering systemic benefits. You can even spend time earned by completing modules to send your investigator on a little vacation, visit the hot springs, or the mental ward, find yourself. if you're even still in there at all, or run off to a little micro-adventure and die before you know what's happening. Well, that wasn't very relaxing. Systemic stuff aside, I want to talk about the individual modules, inspirations, narrative stuff, and construction. This is not a walkthrough, just an overview. Lies and Frauds is on the shorter side and mostly takes place in a single building. It's a solid example of what the game can be. Quick, biting, dull, and suddenly electric, depersonalization is at its best when the player is engaging with the systems and stumbles into horror.
Is that bone?
That said, it's also a prime example of inconsistent visual work. You're meant to help cure this guy's sick daughter, but she looks like Yog-Sothoth and a Forgamon. There's the priest for comparison. What did they mean by this? But I appreciate how it suckers you in. Most of the other elements are low-key. Sure, it's a cult, but they're all decently friendly, or interactable at the very least, and that little smear of color gets your imagination running. What the anime's going on in here? The module gradually pivots from the mundane to the supernatural in ways that leave you questioning what's real and what isn't. You can get cut down by a nun. Of course you have pink hair and a scythe. Or maybe you get dragged down into this to discover an apparent clone of Irene, aka Yummy. And this branch alone has like 3 endings. If your character has the hedonist trait, you can apparently allow yourself to receive the tentacle. Developers, please don't embarrass me. It gets a little intense. I ran this module the most, not because it references the bloated woman or Nyarlathotep, though it does do that, but because it was the most interesting package to unravel. A lot of the other adventures suffer with length or force you through a particular and boring path, which the built-in skip button helps with, to be clear, but here you hit the ground running. Saladinate is maybe the most out-of-place module here. It looks almost normal, but upon entry, you're instantly roped into conversation with this person.
Check out my sweet gun.
What are you, 12? Maybe you are. Maybe you are 12. Imagine being a professional assassin and openly talking about it. We can swing by the local middle school on the way to the plot, no problem. There's a man with pink hair and he's really happy about it. Obviously this guy is compromised, but I have no idea what that says about our chuny friend here. We were brought in to investigate this pink guy's mansion and protect him from potential thieves, mostly by stealing him blind and mugging his staff. Maybe I'm the real monster. Vivi's guide here mentions that it's the best module for high mysticism characters, which is worth highlighting. I struggled with magic, but there's no reason for a TTRPG to make all of its systems equally available to every player. Part of the fun is finding your own path, you know? The devs deserve credit for varying modules enough that different aspects of the system can shine. Depersonalization tends to hand out piles of NPCs who all look, you know, equally worthy of talking to, and expects you to be interested. Running modules back-to-back is an easy path to burnout because between the rough script and the many NPCs, you'll find yourself drowning in a sea of meaningless words, and these interactions pump up the time spent in any given place. Saladinate is not a large module, but it feels daunting without skipping dialogue because of the raw number of interactions you'll have. Of course, for another kind of player, that's the fun. I just wish the translation was better.
Oh, what does it mean?
Still, you handle a lot of small encounters with the occult, and not always with combat. Interacting with the otherworldly is dangerous, and the game makes it known. I'm not sure why you would ever investigate a suspicious well in a Cthulhu game unless you wanted to die, but that's what it means to get to the bottom of the situation. Of course, all that fun stuff is challenged by the mysterious cat girl. Of course you have blue hair and lesbian. One of the hardest things about depersonalization is the choice of visuals. I mentioned it was mixed, but this is madness. And maybe that's the point. Lovecraft actually wrote a story about cats, and presumably this is a reference, along with the various other references that the developers jammed in and slam-packed together. So by the time a Genshin Impact character arrives on scene to hit you with a beam cannon, you're a little bit numb. This is Tyndalos, the real boss of the module. I guess they took creative license. I just think maybe they should have put girl heads on the hounds. That would have been pretty scary. Taunton Town is rough around the edges, one of the weaker modules overall for me. The gist is the town's populace is unable to leave, caged in by a wall of fog that transports any runners back home. You're sent in to break the spell, but you're immediately tossed into a soup of confusing characters. You get into a train crash and you're eventually cared for by a mentally broken individual. An apparently psychopathic killer is trying to cut down this guy Taunton. It's a hot start, but it's also hard to make sense of in the moment. But that's part of the game's appeal as well. You're meant to be confused, so you can start digging through anything and everything for clues. You'll pick up black seeds which can do nothing or unlock an ending, but only if you find them all. I had no idea what they did the first time around and realized too late I'd missed some. You're rewarded for being thorough. It can be fun, running rampant with Horn and going off to torch Tonson's mansion, or taking your own path forward and untangling the supernatural yourself, but the game also struggles with compelling characters. I think the script is the main culprit, but I feel too often like these people are the cultural runoff of too many bad tropes. Horn is mostly just an unhinged killer. I mean, the guy's a fucking gamer. Tonson is, of course, the rich cultist jackass who needs to be eliminated. Mary might have been a character at one point, but since she's compromised by supernatural influence, she's mostly just a walking tragic backstory. And do you see what I'm getting at? These aren't people to get invested in. Not really. But it's constructed for replayability. You get the gist once and fast forward through them. Maybe there's some sense in crafting paper-thin characters for the sake of easy detachment. You're quite literally experimenting with their lives by pursuing multiple timelines. But because of your own created investigators, the guys who are anyone from anywhere who don't have to fit in aesthetically at all, it can feel like you're playing dolls with a Cthulhu backdrop more than getting invested in the world. And that's pretty rough for a crafted tabletop experience. I think I'm supposed to be falling in love with his shopkeep, not genuinely thinking they're subhuman. As far as I'm aware, this module shares the fewest possible endings, 2, with only one other adventure, which can make the branching paths feel pointless. Pass or fail. Who cares what happens in between? I feel like I'm reading off a laundry list of complaints, but that's why I front-loaded the review of general gameplay. I like what the game is, and it goes for cheap. It's unique and it's fun. I promise. But the next 2 modules deserve special mention for bucking the trend. Moonshade Monolith and Farhope Park are both text-based adventures, foregoing open exploration for close reading. Shame about my monolingual anglophonism. It'd be easy to see this as a net negative. Look, the poor studio couldn't find gameplay in the budget. Har har. But since Call of Cthulhu is maybe best known in gaming as an RPG, it feels entirely appropriate, especially when you're tired of running through the other modules, going through the motions, and get the chance to relax and play something closer to its roots. Moonshade Monolith is interesting. You're sent into an uncharted island and forced into conflict with nightmare creatures of all kinds. There's a lingering sense of dread heightened by the nature of the quest. Taking away your ability to move freely, relegating you to text and combat feels like a loss of agency, which only serves to enhance the intended mood. Your squad meets with a terrible fate one by one. Apparently, the module takes inspiration from The Black Stone, a short story written by Robert E. Howard, mostly for occurring on a remote island with ritualistic inhabitants. The developers use fear, like the status ailment, frequently here, and the repeated mentions of nightmares correlate with the text of the story. Of course, there's the monolith, the Black Stone. Depersonalization maintains a degree of intertextuality between the modules, attempting to translate the vibe of the Lovecraftian body of literature, even in small ways. It's just interesting when the aesthetics don't quite match. Of course, I can't really extol the virtues of the text-based modules without highlighting the rough translation. The writing is not good, or if it is, it's muddled by the machine translation, or someone being underpaid for a very challenging job. So no, I won't call the core text bad. I have no idea, but what's presented here is amateur at best and unintentionally comedic at worst.
Every time someone tries to write a sophisticated gentleman, they write the most... not even the biggest prick you can imagine talks like that. Jesus Christ!
This is probably not a reaction you want anywhere near your moody horror game. And that's only accounting for the English text. Depersonalization has a few loose ends, let's say. So sometimes someone will...
他独自歌唱，忧伤的音符自然地
I mean, it's Cthulhu. Maybe I'm going crazy. For all I know, the game injects the machine translation behind the scenes whenever text should appear. Maybe these moments are inconsistent bugs. I don't know for sure. Maybe the most visually faithful and spiritually close to Lovecraft's mythos, Moonshade Monolith becomes a series of blasé character interactions with cardboard cutouts. With only 2 endings and a weak translation, it's a tough sell to rerun. Farhope Park, on the other hand, leans into the quirk the game's actually good at. It's not jarring when a deranged slasher and a weird penguin thing occupy the same space because that's what the game's supported thus far. And with its many endings, feels worthy of a rerun. What's bizarre is that this module alone saves discovered clues, meaning you never actually need to rerun the thing for anything more than the things you missed. It's a bit of developer kindness, at least. Unfortunately, the module is still buggy, though I'm sure it'll be patched before too long. I've never found a game so accurately described as great, but before. Let's rewind a bit. The trailer I showed off earlier is actually built out of snippets of Cursenday's Black Carnival, the final official module from the dev team. It's pretty enticing, and for what it's worth, Cursenday is one of the best. It's easily the longest of the official adventures, where many of the others float around an hour to an hour and a half. This mega module takes easily 3 to 4 hours or longer, depending on the thoroughness of your investigation. It's unfortunate because as opulent and as interesting as the adventure can be, it really strains the credulity of the multiple ending system, forcing you back through long play segments to try again. Thank God for the skip button. Either way, you'll definitely need a guide if you want the true ending. Yeah, it's one of those. Cursenday is frustrating because it's mostly good. There's a version of this game where most characters are aesthetically cohesive, where the stories are layered and winding, but most of the depth is left to this single adventure. Multiple characters exist, some of whom belong to powerful opposed factions. So the game manages to entrance the player with internal drama and stakes. Actual stakes. You're brought into town at the behest of an old friend, but find yourself tagging along on his investigation or going off on your own when he's attacked in the night. The plot devolves from there, but it gets pretty complicated when you're constantly hunting for clues across this huge cityscape. This baby can fit so much plot threads in it. You can recruit multiple different characters, one of which requires specific mythos items or traits, stuff you can bring in from outside the module. The game has secrets and tricks and mystique. Of course, it still suffers from the absurd. This butler dude speaks in a way that can only be described as embarrassing. I want to make a joke about myself here. You know, like, I speak in an elevated manner myself. But the thing is, I mostly grew up in a town with 2,000 people and can code switch back to sounding like a hick because it's in my blood. This guy does not talk like a human being. This guy. So he's gay, and that's fine. It might not be good to put these exact words in this exact character's mouth. Probably would not do that myself. And the end result of all these weird little moments in the script, in the writing, in the characters and events is a game that I can't get seriously invested in. I'm constantly standing 10 paces back like, yep, there it is, instead of embracing it fully. I ran the thing more than once, but I don't know if I'd ever complete it. So where do we go from here? It's hard to plant a flag for or against the game, and a lot of it comes down to development reality. It's a pretty unique offering. Bringing a Call of Cthulhu-esque RPG to solo players is admirable, and apparently there's a multiplayer component in development, though it seems pretty far off for English-speaking players. The game's a cult hit in China, so they'll likely stay where it's safe and let the English version flounder. While I think the game suffers aesthetically, it's hard to believe that every player will have those problems, and the numbers make it plain. They only just launched the iOS version, exclusively in Chinese, because they're currently prioritizing the market they succeeded in. Apparently, London Core of Steam is intended to be a dedicated multiplayer module to bring more players to the game, because tabletop experiences are mostly meant to be shared. The studio seems mainly interested in strategically maneuvering their sudden success into perpetual stability, but at least they're aggressively transparent. Threading the needle between commerce and art, depersonalization is still a ways off from fully becoming itself. A lot of the game's issues are budgetary. Reading through their monthly community notes is pretty harrowing. Overworked staff, behind on pay, with one post stating that 30% of the team's earned wages were thus far paid out, with the rest to follow in early 2026. It looks pretty dire. MeowNature makes it plain in writing that depersonalization isn't really a finished product, but a goal to strive for, something to refine and improve on the side, and with community assistance, no less, while they focus on surviving and expanding. This is why the script still has no adequate English translation. Despite the overhaul in 2025, it's enormous, and would chew through a non-existent budget. It's why voice acting was a non-priority and relegated to AI. They maintain that AI was exclusively used for voiced character dialogue and for talking to the Yog-Sothoth bot. Still, the use of AI tools, no matter how limited, create an air of distrust at a baseline. It's kind of like using steroids to win one race and saying, guys, winners don't do drugs. I have no idea if you're telling the truth anymore. I guess I have to trust. Trust doesn't go very far in the Cthulhu mythos, and it shouldn't go very far in general. I barely trust my grandma to tell me I'm a handsome young man. Because depersonalization is rooted in tabletop systems, it's highly modular by design. The devs recognized this and allowed players to create their own adventures, kind of like creating your own Warcraft 3 campaigns. And if you get scrolling through the modules, you'll notice a host of player-created material available directly in-game, though most of it isn't available in English. It's a cult classic, after all, and the community's been giving back. Something I noticed on the MeowNature YouTube channel was a creator support program, which promises payment to community members, not employees, community members who make significant and recurring contributions to the game. So if you make stuff for them, and it gets popular, and you get signed on as an official creator, you can make up to 300 Canadian dollars 3 times for 3 separate modules, if I understand this correctly. Unfortunately, that's only about $650 US. Imagine if Mario Maker got you paid. Imagine if Nintendo sent you a check for contributing to their game instead of, financially enslaving people. They even casually suggest that contributing could count towards the designer's resume, which... I know the world is changing, but that feels like a bridge too far. The businesses around me probably wouldn't take YouTube video creation on a resume, or at least before I had a business number with the Canadian Revenue Agency. Might get me a social media manager job at best. And this? It's a bit of a jump. Simply making and refining Mario levels wouldn't qualify you to design for Nintendo. I appreciate giving back, and frankly, the OG games industry was messy and full of generally unqualified people. It's definitely a conflict of interest, though, to incentivize private citizens to enrich your own property, which will mostly only pay dividends to actual employees and the money people. This is questionable at best from a labor perspective. You never want to complicate your business if you can help it. I worry that if they can't pay their own team, and in a timely manner, it's unlikely that they can pay their contributors as agreed. But I guess they'll find out how it goes in real time. There's currently one piece of purchasable DLC, which, to be clear, is fan-made material per the support program I just mentioned, mostly created by one individual, but otherwise officially supported by MeowNature. One of the main gripes can be summed up in a single comment. The DLC is a massive evil OC show-off where Investigator can't do anything. Not worth buying. The devs' quality control on paid community-created contents should not be supported, which is pretty excruciating to read, but also exactly what you expect. The things like $4, they're clearly more interested in expanding by whatever means necessary than taking a hardline stance about the quality of their official material. But this is obvious from the main modules alone, which vary wildly in quality. I don't mean to rake these people over the coals, or punch down on an indie studio, or an individual, but when you're in the game for real, selling fan work as DLC, you invite some scrutiny. If you don't want criticism, for the love of God, don't do anything new. Depersonalization could use some charitability, in spite of everything, because of its financial position, but with everything I've brought up, I'm left fence-sitting and frustrated. I don't think the West will ever see the best version of this game. And this aesthetic, I want to say amateurish visual direction, is so challenging to discuss. So challenging it actually kind of works. We all know Lovecraftian media is gross, dingy, wet, cold, devoid, depressing, and these henpecked, browbeaten environments are dotted with hideous, cackling, or stony people ranging from human to other. But the trouble with a consistent set of aesthetics is predictability. This guy is probably edging insanity, and this woman is hiding something. This guy is definitely a monster. And maybe also a fish. It's what The Sinking City did uniquely well. By the way, turning monstrous-looking people into people with human problems instead of the usual. Depersonalization takes one look at the expected table dressing and sends it spilling onto the dining room floor. We can all point and laugh and say, ha ha, cringe, look how juvenile. Or we can ask what the chosen aesthetic is doing and what it accomplishes. Some of the worst villains look completely normal, like they belong in a Cthulhu game. Ridiculously over-the-top 90s anime-looking characters are somehow both completely normal people, untouched by the occult in any way, or old gods. There is no indication that Saya here is a regular person, coming off some of these other modules. But she is. You can never be exactly sure who or what anyone is. This character looks completely unhinged, and he's just a guy with an irritating personality. This character looks safe, well, they're actually a shrieking abominable hellbeast. This character also looks safe, they're safe. It's rare that you're scared, even by the monsters who, again, range from more expected forms to profoundly boundary-pushing. This is meant to be a spider god. Arachnophobes, you're so fucking welcome. But the key thing is, you can never trust these people, at least not the first time through. And because of branching paths, it sometimes takes multiple runs to see the whole of any character. Depersonalization challenges the player looking to judge characters at a glance. Its own muddled aesthetic is actually the perfect cover for any character in any of the modules, and it does this without reducing these people to visually repulsive caricatures. It deliberately maintains the dignity, or at least the aesthetic beauty, of most of its cast. The thing Lovecraft is criticized most for, at least by modern readers, is his own fear of the unknown, manifesting in his work. He was a thoroughly racist person, clearly paranoid about anyone who wasn't exactly like himself. It's baked into his books at a fundamental level. It is impossible to ignore. And he managed to spin his own paranoia about others into a whole kind of horror, which in spite of its base or lesser inspiration speaks truly to the human experience. We're all so concerned about the purity of everybody's immortal soul. This person is secretly evil. This person's a narcissist. This person is fake. And everyone's awful and no one deserves anything! Even when Lovecraft seems badly motivated, his work still resonates with our lesser selves because we're all just a little afraid of everyone else. And Depersonalization refuses to engage with that dynamic. It leverages its chosen aesthetic, weak or not, to recreate the Cthulhu mythos without threading the smallness of human hate into the text. Even when it stumbles, it stays true to its core conceit. The game isn't like other Lovecraftian works. Your character doesn't end up offing themselves or painting the walls with their blood. The lurkers in the dark don't fester and spread. You, as the Star Key, put the world back together, the way it should be, free from unnecessary chaos and cruelty. You illuminate the dark corners of the earth, even when it costs you. Characters who suffer, even the unhinged and untrustworthy, can be recruited to help you put time back together. Depersonalization believes in a world that's greater than what you can plainly see, instead of impossibly, incomprehensibly evil, and wants you to fight for that future. Maybe it isn't truly genre accurate, but who cares? It's trying to be itself. Hey, thanks for making it to the end. Here's my $4 patrons. Let me blow your ears out. Adam Welsh. This is me, the author A.G. Charlton, bullying K-Bash to read Tomes of Ascension. Air Pirate Sid. A.K. Acropolon. Alexander Yaws. Alpha 42. Emperor Sandy. Angel Rivera. Angus. Anthony. Ha! Araloth. Aria. Aaron. Ashley, my wife. My darling. I asked K-Bash to make you smile. Also, hi, Merrick. Asriel. Azura. Atticure. Owleye. Axinate. Bear Skeleton. Basement Dweller. Bosch 7. Basil. Be gay. Do crimes. Bella, more like Smella. Peppers and Beef. Ben M. Beguile. Big Damn Gamer. Big Papa Spray. Big Brick. Biodigital Jazzman. Bite of Cursed Sushi. Blake Against the Machine. Largle Hargle. Blossom Dante. Boom Dead. BH Operator. Orgor. Born in Shadow. Brendan Hanna-Barger. Brandon S. Brendan Hesse. British Gooch. Brian McKnight. Cal. Cajun Lady. Cake Czar. C-Dub. Casual Male XL. Caesar T. Cherokee Bowler. Chiro Hero. Chloric Fox. Corden. Chris Bromo. Cody Golden. Comfy Moogle. Kami Hog. Couch Moba. Cosmetic. Crabmonger Fish Finagler. Trashkers. Crater. Crispy J. Chrono 19D. Cup of the Puppa. CW Glassworks. Cyborg Jiro. Danky Steak Swacky Bay. David Castillo. Dara. Dash Granny. Deadward. Destrega. DeFor. Did you know if you put a wooden spoon on your pot while it's boiling, the pot spoon water will spill the water pot, the boiling pot water steams spoon wood? Dingus back. Don't read this out loud. Oh no, he did it! Doodle Flu. Doug Prince. DJ Professor K. Dr. House from the critically acclaimed television show House MD. Dr. Cullen PhD. Drop the Bait. Duffman. The Protagonist. Dylan Winston. Eclair. El Jaguar. Electric Song. Elefal. Elpio. Emperor Pickle. Empty Tenchi. Eric Monticello. Erica Black. Excalibur Shines. Exorian Hagen. Thnar. Farrakhan's just happy to be Ferns here. Maxima. Fazillion. Forte Noir. Frog Vorbis. Frosty Gamer. Gandalf the Garen Guaranteed. Gigglebite. Glyph Seeker. Gobo Bobo. Gobsmack. Goose 6112. Goose Dolly. Bray the Darkest Black. Griffey Turner. Guardcore. Gucci Plant. Happening Druid. Hatsune Miku's Crack House. Archive. Heeman. Game Station. Helen Dingo. Hermit J. Hebe. Highwind 36. Read that however which way you please. Honey Mutt. Horn Tiger. Horse Boots. How do you know? Here. I just took 7 grams of magic mushrooms and now I'm lost in the woods. Imagination Act. I'm supporting K-Bash just because I wanted to make this part of the video longer. Inferno galore. IOBG. I punched a sandwich. It's not bad. It's time to sue. It's not good. Jack Hydrate. Jacob. Jalopy. James.
Jams, Jank Dankins, Jason Lasky, Jaden, James Vaughn, Jar of Screaming Eyes, J Drito, JL Savaras, J Deus, JB, Jetty 2, JJ09, JK Hedgehog, John Bo the Joker, Jordan Joyner, Chorzy Burden, Juicy Frost,
July, Lunar Butterfly.
June, Kadoki, Callie, K-Chan, Keegan Too Cool, Keith the Thief, Key the Iron Idol, Kata Snack, King Kuma, Key, Kanike Pike,
Karasek,
Kitty Caddis, Clock, Tanoe, Cone 2020,
Clayton,
Crazy Dark Chocolate,
Crumperton,
Tice, Kyle, not that Kyle,
KZ Excellent,
Lady Weeb,
Lesson,
Laundry Mom, Lego Sid, Lethal Nibbles, Linkle, Little Big Trouble, Loathsome Dung Eater, Lion Shard, Lon, Low Red, Low Fat Moger, Lucas Boy, Blood Mac James, Lunatic, Lunar Prince Garbo, Magnet Head, Magic Meows, Malamatic Wolf, Manipool, Manic Pixie Space Pirate, Man in Space, Malfever, Mara Ganger, Marcules, Marcus Rambles, Max Muller, Maxwell B, Maximum Dawn, Meaty Smacks, Mechanized Memories, Maple Puppet, Mega Boy E Nasty, Melitan, Mary Bites, Messiah of Rodents, Metal Gear Gashes, Michelle Citrano, Migsy, Mike Deviar,
Mikusagi,
Minadams,
Noodles,
Mithras, Moa, Mommy Dommy Big Titty Goth GF Queen, Monochrome Rainbow, Morgana Black, Mori, Morn, Morte, Modi, Mr. Mango, Mr. PP Pupakaka, Mr. Edie Dab Face McYoink Bomb, Moogie, Mirna, Naira Nito Torpedo, Neon Dwarf, Nick Krishna, Nick LaRosa, Nifty Rex, Noah McFarlane, Not Nobel,
Hell, I forgot to think of something funny for the K-Bash credits. Next month for sure.
Okami, OJ McMuffins, Burgle, Old Man Cranberry, Omni Nerd Zero, 137, Only LK, Kaplant, Oscar, Owlbear Breakfast, Paper Lancy, PBK, Pandemic Cowboy, Pelagic Undulation, PK Gaming, P-Mike, Popular Hitman, Prismatic Dan, Pringle, Probably Not Great, Project Darklight, Punch Fighter Champion, Honosaurus Rex, Quasar McDougal, Quiet Night, Quillworth, Raging Ataraxia, Real Beans,
Reasonable Dingus,
Red Death, Reggie Rodriguez, Renteca Bond, Ringed Relay,
oh, his arm fell off.
Rowlett's Bowtie, Rolanda, Pete Gamer,
Are you okay?
Busta Wop, Ryan Michelle, Saigon Man,
Siren smells good.
Salmon Coder,
Salsa.
Salty Smasher,
Gabrius,
Scribe Slendy, Sakaya No Award, Sensual Coder, Saphirium, Sexy Bionicle GF, Sergeant Shitbrick, Shod, Shintendo, Shut Up Wesley, Singe, Sim,
God.
Sir Doodles a lot. Seriously tired of waiting in line. Sir Giggles XD. Sir Speedster. Skywardly. Sleepy Wabbit. Slippy Sloppy Bippy Boppy. Snart. Small Turtle House. So Zeta Dad. Sock'em Boppers. Space Lizard. Sparks. Spider Dad. Squidget. Star Night Sky.
Static Linkage,
Straffin Battles.
Sully,
Sunny Bee. Super Sandwich Guy. Toxin. Jorn Chubbington. Terrence Swift. The artist formerly known as Sam the Sam. The Big Bubby. The Brandorian. The Clown Prince of Cringe. The Good Lord has blessed me. Hallelujah. The Green Loki. The Crispy Boy. The Peacemaker Pyro.
the Pirates of
The
Penzance,
Salt
the
Knight,
Nomad,
the Toasted One, Thick Dick Mystic,
This is the Monato's power.
Thresh, Thrips Heartthrob, Tiggles McGuffin, Tim Lobster, Timid the Writer, Total Play, Travis Edwards, Twiddle Chungus, Ty Guy 9001,
Udit Singh,
Unlawful Skies Crippling Gotcha Addiction, Vid, Vacant Plaza, Valenrist, Venom,
Verum Leonhardt,
Vice Pup, Viewers Like You, Vic, Volkento, Walk-In, Get Right in My Bag, Poser, Lane is Boss, Weeb Trash, Who else? Shit,
Waylon,
What's in a Name,
Where Am I?
Whiskey
Help?
Dono,
Ouija,
Wrenchin, Zanny Tanner,
Giandi,
Stravius, Yarrow 12,
Yashichi,
Iniane, Zane the Impure, Zane the Pure, Zephigamon, Full Burner, Zero Maru 2, Zero Zalazar, Cyberbunk. If you'd like to help support the show, help me keep investing, making interesting looks at the medium, hit me up on Patreon. See you soon. K-Bash out.